Good morning and welcome to the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 4th. We do begin each of our meetings with an invocation. And this morning we have Chaplain Terry Crum from the Marine Corps League number 29 to lead us in that invocation. We invite you to stand and join us.
As for your religious preference, please join me in prayer. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together as citizens of this great nation, the United States of America, land of the free and home of the brave. This morning, we will recognize two important events, the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps and the 2025 Veterans Day. On November 10, 1775, the Continental Congress set in motion by decree the beginnings of a force in readiness whose history is rich in tradition and glory. From the shores of Tripoli to the halls of Montezuma, battles of Belleau Wood, Iwo Jima, Frozen Reservoir, Khe Sanh, Fallujah, and many more. The Corps has been and continues to be the country's 911 force, an immediate and on-call expeditionary force, ready to deploy anywhere at short notice for crisis and contingencies. Always ready, always guided by the core principles, honor, courage, and commitment. A force whose motto is Semper Fidelis, always faithful, is etched on our hearts. Also informally, we boast no better friend, no worse enemy. Pray for all veterans of our great land as we recognize November 11th as Veterans Day, the day whose beginning began with the ending of World War I. A day to remember the armistice signed on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. What began as a day of peaceful reflection, we now celebrate all men and women who have served and are serving. Quoting President Abraham Lincoln, any nation that does not honor its heroes will not endure. May the words that we speak and the actions we take not reflect our own understanding and ambition, but always be guided by your divine wisdom, understanding, and love. In the most holy name of Jesus Christ, we pray, amen.
And Commissioner Nelson, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and I'm unaware of any staff emergency items today.
Item 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements to today's agenda, and the next meeting will be Thursday, November 13th at 9:00 a.m. for land use.
Item 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar, including items 5A through 5L3.
Okay, is there anyone here who wishes to speak on an item on the consent calendar? Seeing none in the room and none online, I'll bring it up here to commissioners for any comments or motion.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize one item on the consent calendar. And we have an employee who is retiring. His name is John West. He worked in the Department of Public Works for 46 years. That's a lot of snowstorms. Thank you.
While I really appreciate how excited we all are, we do have rules of decorum that ask us to not applaud. So if we could keep that till another time. Thank you.
That's a lot of snowstorms. The Black Forest Fire. He was a grader operator. But he said that not even 5 sticks of dynamite would get him over here. So if you're over at the Department of Public Works today, please give him a huge congratulations. Thank you to John West. And with that, unless anyone else has any comments, I will move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. One more chance for comments. Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Weissong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Applegate.
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Item 6.
Item number 6 is the proclamation recognizing the 250th anniversary of the United States Marine Corps. Bill Weissong, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
I'm requesting a motion for the approval of the proclamation recognizing the 250th anniversary of the United States Marine Corps. Whereas on November 10th, 1775, the Continental Congress authorized the formation of 2 battalions of Continental Marines, the amphibious infantry of the American colonies, to conduct ship-to-ship fighting during the American Revolutionary War. And whereas the Continental Marines were disbanded in 1783 and recreated in 1798 as United States Marine Corps. The United States Marine Corps deems November 10th, 1775 as its official founding date. And whereas for 250 years, the United States Marine Corps has prided itself on exemplifying its motto of Semper Fidelis, always faithful, serving honorably in every clime and place, from the shores of Tripoli to the valleys of Afghanistan. Our Marines are always ready to answer the call of our nation. President Reagan often described them as the nation's 911 force. And whereas the Marines come from all walks of life and are transformed through the rigors of the crucible into warfighters with a passion to win against our adversaries, no matter their ranks, Marines stay true to their uncompromising standards found in their core values of honor, courage, and commitment. And whereas active duty Marines in the El Paso County typically serve on a joint assignments or specialty bullets, serving at NORAD Northcom headquarters at Peterson Space Force Base, or as training exchange officers or recruiters in our region. And whereas 2025 marks 80 years since a photographer captured the iconic image of our brave Marines raising the U.S. flag at the summit of Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima in World War II. An enduring image of the American spirit. And whereas those that have worn the uniform of the Marines continue to serve our nation through their ethos of resilience and determination, leading the way in our local communities and businesses in embodying the spirit of once a Marine, always a Marine. Now, therefore, the El Paso County Board of County Commissioners hereby proclaims November 10th as the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps and calls on the citizens of El Paso County to honor the legacy of support and fidelity between America and our Marines by celebrating their service with personal gestures of gratitude, attending local ceremonial events, and sharing their history and stories of heroism. Done this 4th day of November 2025 at Colorado Springs, Colorado, by the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Carrie Geithner, Chair, Holly Williams, Vice Chair, Corey Applegate, Member, Lauren Nielsen, Member, and Bill Weissong, Member. Attested by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded, and we have several speakers here this morning. Mr. Schleicher, if you want to kick us off.
Absolutely. So, commissioners, good morning, and also our distinguished guests that are here. I am Steve Schleicher, the El Paso County Clerk, and also a United States Marine. Monday, November 10th marks an extraordinary milestone in our American military history, the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps, founded on November 10th, 1775, and of course, in a tavern, Tun Tavern in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, during our American Revolution. Integrity and ethical conduct in every action, upholding the highest standards of moral character, is what defines a United States Marine. mental, moral, and physical strength to face fear, danger, and adversity with unwavering resolve, devotion to duty, and dedication to the Corps and country above self. For a quarter of millennia, Marines have served as the nation's sentinels of freedom, fighting in every major conflict from Tripoli shores to the forest of Belleau Wood, from the volcanic sands of Iwo Jima to the mountains of Afghanistan, through the brutal island hopping campaigns of the Pacific in World War II, the frozen reservoir of Chosin, the jungles of Vietnam, and the streets of Fallujah, Marines have answered every call with distinction. One other item is every Marine is a rifleman. This enduring ethos has defined our readiness, resilience, and warrior spirit across generations. It reminds us that regardless of the military occupational specialty, every Marine is first and foremost a combat-ready defender of freedom. As a Marine who served from 1988 to 1999, I witnessed firsthand the traditions, discipline, and brotherhood that bind Marines across time. I deployed during Operations Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Southern Watch, and Deny Flight, experiencing the same values that guided Marines at Tripoli in 1805 and Belleau Wood in 1918. That legacy of excellence continues in every Marine serving today. The Marine Corps history is not merely about battles won or territory secured. It is about the indomitable spirit of service, sacrifice, and the solemn promise to defend liberty and our nation's ideals wherever and whenever called upon. From embassy guards to expeditionary forces, from humanitarian missions to combat operations, Marines have stood ready. We honor the generations of Marines who established and defended our proud traditions through sacrifice and valor. For those who serve today, we celebrate the Marines currently standing watch around the world, upholding our legacy with the same dedication. And the legacy we carry forward, we pledge to preserve and pass on the Marine Corps commitment to excellence, honor, and faithful service to our nation. On this 250th birthday, we pay tribute to every Marine who has worn the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. We remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice. We honor those who served with distinction, and we support those who continue the mission today. The few, the proud, the Marines, Semper Fidelis. Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you. And I don't know if you have all determined an order, but I know I have several folks here. Is there anyone who wants to volunteer to go next? There you go.
I think it's the first time I've got to come over here today, so thank you. One, Chair Geithner, Vice Chair Williams, I appreciate you guys taking time to honor the Marine Corps. So if you take around, there's not a lot of Marines. So, we didn't have the luxury of having beautiful places, to be stationed, like our Army brothers and sisters and our Air Force compadres. So we get to come here as special guests, and that's about it. But a lot of us choose to make this our homes. And, the Marine Corps, and we're going to have a lot of great gentlemen behind me get to speak on that. But if you think about the Marine Corps, like every other good story started in a bar, Hinchton Tavern. So I think the Marine Corps has really kept that tradition. If you look at the Marine Corps birthday, if you've ever got to go, you always have the oldest and the youngest there. And that's really beat into us, is keeping that tradition alive. If any Marine's alive, your legacy lives on. So just like me, I'm very fortunate. My son decided to join the Marine Corps. So now, like I told him, he's not only my son, he's my brother. So now, he graduated boot camp in September, and he's out at Camp Pendleton going through infantry school now. So it's interesting to see that family tradition continue to live on. But if you think about what you do as elected officials and what all of our public servants does at the county, the city, and the College Springs utilities, that honor, courage and commitment, it really exemplifies what we do as public servants. It's really no different. So as we learn those skills, learn those traits, and really ingrain that as an individual in the Marine Corps, we get to take that back to our communities. So now I get to serve. And I was telling him earlier, I think it scares the Air Force a little bit that a jarhead Marine crayon eater is serving their utilities sometimes, I think. But at the end of the day, I get to still serve, just in a different capacity. And once a Marine's always a Marine. But thank you so much for the time. Thank you for what you're doing. I mean, you're living the traits of the Marine Corps as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll take volunteers before I start calling the names. So let's see who, speaking of courage.
First off, Don Richardson, retired Marine. I've been out longer than I've been, but first and foremost, I want to thank the board for inviting me to hear this proclamation, which was so eloquently crafted. It's a powerful message, and it's a message, quite frankly, that has a great deal of meaning. And if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'll come back and tell you why it has meaning, and you probably don't even understand it, okay? So, I stand before you as an old man, right? 75 almost years old, wearing, I'm thankful that you allowed me the opportunity to put the uniform back on. And I'm here to tell you, this is the uniform I bought 50 years ago. This is the first time I put it on. I almost did not know how to put it together, was at the 200th birthday ball in Quantico, coming out of OCS and at a place called TBS. Classic place, the basic school. That is the crucible for every Marine officer, whether you come out of Annapolis, whether you come out of NROTC from Notre Dame, or whether you roll in at OCS. Once you're done with all that, you head off to Camp Barrett for another 8 or 9 months of just learning how to be a Marine, how to sight a machine gun, how to read the terrain, how to lay a mortar, how to adjust artillery fire. Every Marine, as we alluded to, is a rifleman. And that's the important part. At that time, when I first showed up in this uniform, me and 1,000 of my closest personal second lieutenants from TBS, all we wanted to do was stay out of the way of the senior officers. We didn't get it. And the first time attention on deck was called, drinks were put down, you were saying, what the heck is going on here? That was the first time I had the honor and the privilege of seeing a ceremony that was codified over 100 years ago. Birthdays are not something that's new to the Marine Corps. It's been in our tradition, and it's been codified not only by our 13th commandant, a guy by the name of Lejeune. You might have heard of him. He's got a fancy base named after him. But more importantly, he not only led the Marines in the First World War, the first time they had a brigade that size, but he did so well, Blackjack Pershing made him also the commanding general of the 2nd Infantry Division, Army. So he codified over 100 years ago what the birthday should be, why it should be, and then the drill manual for the Marine Corps to this day tells you how to execute it. So I didn't get it then so much. My first Marine Corps birthday ball 50 years ago in this very uniform, which I probably had the gig line. You know what a gig line is? Screwed up, right? Metal. You didn't have to worry about it. I only had one. Fire watch. So, but during that ceremony was a very moving time. I started to get it. I wasn't there, but you started to get that you were part of something. You were part of something that was way bigger than you. And then in successive years, I've worn this uniform to more dadgum parades, more ceremonies, funerals, weddings, my own wedding, right, honey? Right? And so I thank you so much for the privilege of being able to put it back on one more time. But what you're saying when I started this is something you probably don't even realize what you've done. Why meaningful? Why it was so meaningful, the message that you so artfully crafted. You are now a thread, all right, that's being woven into a tapestry. And that tapestry this weekend will cover the planet, right? It'll cover the entire Marine Corps. You talk about every climb and place. It'll be in every embassy around here. Some of the most coveted tickets are the Marine Corps balls in Moscow, Paris, London, Beijing. Remember, a Marine security guard guards every one of our embassies around the planet. Marines aboard ships. Right now, people don't realize 365 days a year, Marines are deployed, at least 2, generally 3 amphibious radio groups. They're off Venezuela right now. They're in Westpac, okay? And they're training with our NATO allies in the Med. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The force and readiness is at sea. They will be celebrating. As General Lejeune dictated, in every base, place, detachment, this week, there will be a honoring of a Marine Corps birthday. And as we already alluded to, it's really, if you have the honor to sit through a Marine Corps birthday celebration, when it gets quiet, when it's attention on deck, the sideboards are manned, what you'll find, it's almost a religious event in that it's a reaffirmation. Marine Birthday has been a reaffirmation for over 100 years. And what is that reaffirmation? The first thing is we reaffirm our commitment to those that came before us, those who laid down their lives so that we can stand on their shoulders, their legacy of success. Second is that we reaffirm our commitment to those on our left and right. Doesn't matter if you're an aviator, a cannon cocker, infantry, it doesn't matter, you're a Marine, right? And so we reaffirm that commitment. And as we alluded to in that simple cake cutting ceremony, we reaffirm our commitment to the next generation of Marines. It's a passing of the torch, although it's a piece of cake. The commanding officer will present the first piece of cake to the oldest Marine, right? And he, in turn, presents it to the youngest in the audience. So it is not just a party, although it's been a hell of a party for me in a lot of places in a lot of countries. I'll be honest with you. The best Marine Corps balls are never in the United States, trust me. I've been in utes and boots, as we say, in the jungles. I've been in more countries than I care to say, but it's always the same. So I've already exceeded my clock time, I can tell. But technology changes, equipment changes. And accordingly, it's going quickly. Tactics change. And one thing still will always remain the same. It's the spirit that animates the Marines. That's what General Lejeune talked about. That's what our commandant talks about, because he talks about our Marine Corps. And as things change, and they're changing quickly, you cannot have a Marine give a speech without a quote from Chesty Puller. Right? The most famous, the most revered, the most decorated Marine in history. And Chesty said, old breed, new breed, it doesn't make one damn bit of difference as long as it's the Marine breed. So, Semper Fi, happy birthday, Marines.
I'm really excited because I hear we're in for a really special treat. You're going to sing for us? Is that what I heard?
Commissioner.
Oh,
Please don't make me do that. Please don't have me do that. At least not indoors. Morning, Madam Chair. Commissioners, thank you so much for doing this. Not many things choke me up. My kids and the Eagle Globe and Anchor. I'm Vernon Stewart. I'm the Executive Director of Community Resources here at El Paso County and serve as your County Veteran Services Officer. I served in the Marines from 2000 and 2004. I was at 9th 9th Communications Battalion out of Camp Pendleton, and I was deployed with the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit on ESG-1. 250 years ago, as was mentioned, citizens in Philadelphia and Tun Tavern, Pennsylvania, formed this first formation of the Corps with this story running through America's fabric and how to defend our nation. Across generations and across the world, Marines have lived three simple words, as you've heard many times this morning: honor, courage, and commitment. These are values, as we were talking about earlier, that I don't believe I could shake even if I wanted to. These values are so ingrained in the very fabric of what we stand for, and I cannot begin to describe the feeling I have being around these Marines. As was mentioned, there's not many of us here in the state of Colorado. This is probably the most Marines I have been around since I can't even remember. And I feel it. I can feel it. The motivation right now for me, commissioners, is overwhelming because of all of the stories that they've shared. I like to share mine and how I ended up a proud wearer of this logo. I was recruited to go into the Marine Corps to play football. I had a football scholarship my senior year, and my recruiter, Staff Sergeant Travis Deal, weird enough, showed up to one of my high school football games and talked me out of a football scholarship to go and play for the Marines on the all-Marine team. The plan was easy: make the unit team, then battalion, then the base team, and then maybe have a shot at making the all-Marine Corps team roster. Remember, I said I served from 2000 to 2004. As was mentioned, every Marine, no matter their job, is a rifleman. A year later, after I got to 9th Comm Battalion, 9/11 happens. I have to trade in my playbook for a rifle. I was then deployed. Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom. Those football dreams were over. But here's what I learned. I would do that all over again. I don't even care if football's in the equation, because what I found is I had an opportunity to serve a bigger team, the United States of America. And that was the best team that I could have had a roster spot on, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And I stand here before you as a county employee and as your county veteran service officer to honor the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps, and thank you for everything that you do for our veterans in this community, and also recognizing the smallest, but also the most prideful branch in the United States. I mean, you can hear it. There's no shortage of pride when it comes to these gentlemen. So to every Marine, veteran, spouse, and family member in El Paso County and across this great nation, the next 250 years begin with you. Thank you for keeping the spirit of the United States Marine Corps alive in our community. On behalf of El Paso County, happy 250th birthday to my Marines. Semper Fidelis. Thank you.
That is not a story that I knew. I had no idea that that Vernon's recruiter was here also. In you're kidding? Wow, that's pretty amazing that there are two Travis Deal Marines out there. That is a scary story. All right, who do we have up next? Who wants to go first? Mr. Crum?
So I'm being gently prodded up here. Good morning, I'm Russ Miller. I'm the National Senior Vice Commandant of the Marine Corps League, the Toys for Tots coordinator here in El Paso County, and the president of the Pikes Peak Veterans Council, which represents about 40 veteran organizations here in the community. My story, I didn't come with a bunch of prepared remarks. My story is a little different. I grew up on the Navajo Reservation. My brother and I broke ranks with the rest of the family and became Marines. Somebody had to save face for our family, so we did it. Everybody else before us served in the Army, and my dad always said there's only two branches of the military. That's the Army and the Navy, and then there's one corporation and a cult. And so you can guess which one we are. But growing up there on the Navajo reservation and hearing the stories of the Navajo code talkers, which today we only have two left, only two remaining, and that's Peter McDonald and Thomas Begay. And hearing their stories of Tinian and Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima, the Battle of Okinawa, and hearing those stories were what brought my brother and I to want to don the cloth of the Marine Corps and serve in the Marine Corps. Unfortunately, my brother was killed in Vietnam when I was only 8 months old, so I never knew him. But going in the Marine Corps, expecting to be a helicopter mechanic, and ended up being an infantryman, a rifleman, because that was, when you shoot straight, they tend to pick you to do certain jobs. But I just want to thank El Paso County, the county commissioners, all of you. This community, as I travel around the nation and I speak in other cities, other counties, other states, to organizations, especially to Marine Corps League organizations, it always is so wonderful to come back home to a community that is so supportive and welcoming of our veterans, that has so many organizations like Mount Carmel that have stood up to stand in the gap for our veterans. And so as we as veteran organizations seek to do that in our community and help our fellow brothers and sisters who have served our country, I want to applaud you and thank all of you for your support for all of us here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schleicher, you've already had your turn. You're going to come back again?
Well, I'm sitting here, Madam Chair, trying to prod my brothers and sisters to come up, but I will be remorseful not mentioning this. And Commissioner Wysong, again, thank you for this resolution. However, it is my brothers and sisters that reached out and asked if I would sit there and read the proclamation at this year's 250th birthday. So, Commissioner, we're going to be reading that, and from what I understand, and Russ and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nearly 600 that are going to be in attendance. 550. So it's going to be a major occasion. I'm really looking forward to it. But commissioners, thank you so much for recognizing this. It means a lot to us. So thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have anyone else who wants to speak on this proclamation before we move forward? Where are we? Well, I'm going to bring it up here in just a moment. So, okay. With that, I will go ahead and bring it up. Typically, we do allow our commissioner reading it to go last if you want to wait for that. So you can close us out, have the final word. Other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for your service. This has been very inspirational. Thank you.
Commissioner Applegate.
Thank you. United States Marines, as they say, it's just the men's department of the Navy. So thank you for showing up this morning. Thank you for your service. Thank you for, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, the men's, thank you for your service to the men's department. So no, but I appreciate that. So thank you for your service. Thank you all. And man, happy 250th. I mean, you guys are making it look good. So
I'll just echo thank you for your service to our country, and coming and sharing your stories today is very powerful. And I loved the sentiment that was shared, that it was those who went before you that allowed you to stand on their shoulders and serve and continue on. And it's just amazing to see the courage and commitment and integrity that you model. And so thank you. Thanks for being here today.
And then I will just add my thanks as well to all of you for being here, for your service. I really cannot put into words how much it means and how inspiring it is, to Commissioner Williams' point. At a time where it can sometimes feel like we've lost some of the patriotism that I remember growing up with, it's so inspiring to know that you are all here in our community continuing to promote that. Vernon, thank you for sharing your story. I can't tell you what it means to know that the person we have looking out for veterans in our community has that amount of passion. Some people could be bitter for not getting, that football thing that could be really important, but that's a story I've never heard. So thank you for sharing that. It means a lot, and it means a lot to me that you are taking care of the veterans in this community. It's funny, I noticed Commissioner Weissong's got his Navy tie over there. We all know that there's a little bit of a rivalry here. I love hearing that there are not that many Marines. I feel you, even though there are more Army folks here. I still sometimes feel on the outs as an Army spouse here. And I have to say that though it's a little different, being in the Army infantry, as my husband was, and being a rifleman, I know that there's always a real connection with the riflemen of the Marine Corps. So that's always something that's special to me as well. So thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing in our community because it matters greatly. And with that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Weissong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was an honor to be able to read this proclamation, but I couldn't let this go that the person that wrote it is sitting right up here at the front, Paula Lynn Harris. She is the one that did the research and does a fabulous job. So thank you to Paula. To our Veteran Services Group, sitting up in the corner there, they're the ones that, under the great guidance of Vernon, work with our veterans. So a great thank you to our veterans team and to all the Marines that are here. Really appreciate the turnout. It's great. So, Semper Fi.
Okay, with that, I think we are ready to proceed with a vote, beginning with Commissioner Weissong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Applegate.
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. We will take a brief recess to do a photograph, and then you can clap all you want. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting back to order, and we are moving to item 7.
Item number 7 is a proclamation recognizing Veterans Day in El Paso County. Corey Applegate, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you. And thank you to all the veterans that have served. A proclamation recognizing Veterans Day in El Paso County. Whereas the 11th of November in 1918 marked a cessation of combat in what was the most destructive and farthest reaching war in history. And whereas, following World War I, the Congress of the United States officially recognized that the reoccurring anniversary of the date, which would become known as Armistice Day, should be commemorated with thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to promote peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between all nations. And whereas Congress amended its earlier legislation in 1954, striking out the word armistice and inserting the word in its place, veterans, thereby expressing its intent that November 11th should be a day that we should honor American veterans of all wars. And whereas the freedom we enjoy today are protected by the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. These protectors of liberty put their lives on the line every day to safeguard our way of life. And whereas families have stood by proudly as their sons, daughters, husbands, and wives answered the call of duty. And whereas we have benefited from their many sacrifices and are grateful and appreciative of their selfless sacrifice. And whereas more than 100,000 veterans and families call the Pikes Peak region home, and all residents of El Paso County, Colorado, should join in the pride and appreciation to all veterans. And whereas El Paso County, through its Community Resources Program, has proudly served 79,386 veterans, surviving spouses, and their dependents in this past year. And whereas it is our privilege to also recognize the local veteran service organizations for their work in the community and their unwavering support of veterans and their families through the various programs they administer or sponsor. And whereas the men and women who have donned our nation's uniforms are America's greatest national treasure, and with their strength, bravery, and unbreakable resolve. Now, therefore, the Board of El Paso County Commissioners recognizes November 11th, 2025 as Veterans Day in El Paso County and encourages all El Paso County citizens to honor and support our veterans by attending a parade or ceremony, volunteering at organizations that help veterans in need, donating to a veteran-focused nonprofit, supporting veteran-owned businesses, and flying the American flag at your home or business to show appreciation for veterans and their sacrifice. That is done this day, 4th day of November, 2025, at Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Chair Carrie Geithner, Vice Chair Holly Williams, Corey Applegate, member, Lauren Nelson, member, Bill Wysong, member, and that is attested to by Steve Schleichler, our County Clerk and Recorder.
I'll second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. And again, I believe we have some guests here this morning, so I'll invite you to come on up. Love to hear from you.
Director of the Mount Carmel Veteran Service. We enter our 10th year of service. Is that better?
Thank you.
I'm very proud of our partnership and those great Americans up there who I serve with every day at Mount Carmel and around the community. It's what right looks like. It's a private organization like Mount Carmel partnering with the county veteran service officers to bring great services. I have to apologize in advance because we know that our friends, the Marines, don't need any more bolstering, but I'm going to do a little bit of it as I start. I stand before you today as a proud U.S. Army veteran and the son of a Marine. My mother, who served in the Marine Reserves in the 1950s in the Women's Boston Auxiliary. Because of her, I was the only kid in my 6th grade class to know what the Marine emblem stood for, the EGA, Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. I actually won a prize for that. As a soldier, I also served with the 2nd Marine Division as their fire support coordinator during combat operations in the Lombard province. I learned firsthand of their esprit de corps and fighting spirit passed down from generations. Once a Marine, always a Marine, and soldier for life. All the services have a motto for serving after service. For the past 10 years, I've served alongside veterans of all services, helping the homeless, providing peer coaching for those in need, and providing resources for underserved veterans. And of course, with my Marine brothers, Toys for Tots. But my most favorite thing before Veterans Day was the Marine birthday. The founder of Mount Carmel, the late great Jay Cimino, was a Marine. I would go to the Marine Corps birthday every year because I was invited because of him. Thanks, Russ. And I was his designated driver, and I also became his designated drinker. Two things that don't mix. Because Jay was the oldest Marines, the young Marines would serve him their favorite beverage, and he would hand it to me, and I would have to feed the trees because I knew that I had to drive home. It was certainly alcohol abuse, but it was an amazing time celebrating the Marine Corps birthday. Ross, I hope I'm invited this year. When referring to veteran services and sacrifice, President Reagan said it best. Veterans know better than anyone else the price of freedom, for they suffered the scars of war. We can offer them no better tribute than to protect what they have won for us. This is our duty. They never let us down. We will never let them down. For the Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center and many partners throughout the community, his words are a call to action. We will endeavor to serve them because they have served us. Veterans Day, and frankly, throughout the month of November, our nation is reminded that freedom isn't free and that we are the land of the free because of the brave. By celebrating veterans with ceremonies like this, parades and proclamations, we ensure that future generations will always answer the call to serve and protect our freedom. I will conclude with a quote from President Obama, who served as the commander-in-chief during my final deployment to Afghanistan as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. This is what he said. Our veterans don't always go around telling stories of their heroism. So it is up to us to ask and to listen, to tell those stories for them, and to live in our lives the values for which they were prepared to give theirs. These words are so meaningful, especially during ceremonies like today, honoring service and sacrifice. Again, I'm honored to be here, proud to continue to serve our veterans. God bless our veterans, and God bless America.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this proclamation?
Good morning, Madam Chair, County Commissioners. My name is Charles Graves. I am the manager for the county's Veteran Services Division. And I want to start by saying thank you for honoring Veterans Day, for honoring the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps, honoring the 250th birthday of the Navy. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that consistently throughout the year at all of the significant and relevant military and veteran-related occasions. Thank you for doing that. And so I spent 25 years of my life serving the Navy Marine Corps team. As you heard earlier, 20 of those years was as a FMF corpsman embedded with the Marines. And so I know what it costs, what service costs. And I've felt it, I've seen it. And I also know the positives of that, the benefits, the gratitude, the patriotism, being proud to serve your country. You all raised our right hand and swore an oath to defend the nation, to defend the Constitution of the United States. And some of us paid that ultimate price. And we honor that on Memorial Day, and we also honor that on Veterans Day. But on Veterans Day, we also honor those small sacrifices of veterans that are not in the newspapers, missing birthdays, missing the birth. Many of them miss the birth of their firstborn child. They miss holidays, Christmases. They miss the passing of their parents and their grandparents. And you know, the families also serve. Every time they pick up and they move somewhere, they go to Germany, they go to Korea or Japan, the family has to move with them. They're serving right alongside with them. And when that veteran deploys, they're worried, always waiting. You know, is my loved one going to come home safe and sound? So, you know, every veteran has a story. Some of them are very proud of their service and they'll tell you that. I can tell you in my role at Veteran Services, that's not always true. Not all those experiences do they want to remember, and they have a hard time dealing with that. And at a certain point, they're going to have to reintegrate back into society, take off that uniform. That's where we need a very strong support structure for those veterans, and I'm proud to say that we do have that here in El Paso County. Everywhere you look around, we have veterans. We're beset by 5 military bases. We have veterans in our local government. We have veterans in our hospitals, in our law enforcement, in our education system, and in businesses. And so they're still serving, just wearing a different uniform. So on behalf of veterans who have served, and as part of that, on behalf of that support structure, thank you for always putting veterans front and center. It's important. And thank you for honoring veterans who served our country and defended our freedom. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, and is there anyone else who is here to speak on this proclamation? Just to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay, so with that, I will bring it up to the dais for comments from commissioners. Commissioner Weisung?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just remind everyone and pass it along. This Saturday is the Veterans Day Parade. And hopefully we can line both sides of the street from beginning to end with all the folks in El Paso County. So just remember, and again, thank you.
Commissioner Nelson.
Again, I want to say thank you for your service to the veterans in the room and listening online. Over the recent years, as I served on the School District 11 School Board, I was able to attend many ceremonies at our schools, and that is also really powerful. And so if you don't have an activity but would like to experience something that recognizes our veterans, go to your neighborhood school, reach out. It's really powerful, and I know I've been very blessed over the years to be able to attend those. And just thank you for our community. When you go get ice cream or are at a restaurant, you know, they always ask, are you a veteran? Or are you a member of military? And that's unique to El Paso County. When you go to other states, that's not as common. And so I'm really proud of how supportive we are of our military members. And thank you to the veterans team. I look forward to my orientation and learning more about the program and how you serve our community. And just again, thank you to our veterans who have sacrificed so much and to their families to protect our freedoms our country was founded upon. It's not something that we should ever take for granted, and it is something we need to be very proactive to maintain. So thank you for those who continue to support our military in protecting our freedoms.
Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get teary-eyed up here, but I just wanted to thank my dad. I sure miss him. He passed away a few years ago, Korean War veteran, and thank the Lord for letting him come home alive from the Korean War. Thank you for all of your service. I appreciate it.
I'll just add, again, how grateful that I am for all of your service. And every year I have to thank my husband for his service as well. And I'm grateful to be a part of the military family. It really is a special thing. And my husband still serves today. A lot of people know this. He's still in the reserves. But I think back about our active duty days. It's a very different time. When you are active duty, you're just surrounded by it all the time, and you feel that family. We have so many friends from across the nation that were a huge part of that. But sometimes now in the reserves, many years past those years, it's easy for me to forget what that was like, living that life every day. and to forget until I hear those stories and reminders of what it is like when your soldier goes off to war. And it's a really, I am not normally a crying person, you guys, so I'm sorry, this is just a hard topic for me. But this is it's just such a great reminder. Thank you for pointing out all those things that they miss, because it's easy to just go on about your day and say, oh, thanks for your service, thanks for your service. But what that really truly means and the sacrifices that means are really, really, they're impactful, they're lifelong impactful, right? You don't get those moments back. You don't get that first year or two relationship back. And so I remember being a very young spouse with a toddler and a newborn, and my husband being gone, and truly worrying every night that there would be a knock at the door. And talking to other military spouses about, do you think about it? Do you think about what might happen? How do you deal? How do you cope? And so just the huge sacrifice that folks make in our community. And I know we don't mean it flippantly just to say Happy Veterans Day, but it really is something that we should contemplate and use that day to talk to our kids about what it means, especially at a time when we haven't seen the typical cycle of deployments that maybe some of us were accustomed to back in the day, but just to remember what that means when we talk about wars, when we talk about what's happening around the world. So just really grateful for all of your service. Thank you to my colleagues for honoring this. To every single veteran, I think we owe so very much. Even it's as simple as put out that American flag. We're losing some of that patriotism, I think, in our society as a whole. I think El Paso County still has a pretty good dose of it, but we're seeing it around the nation, and there are people who would like to tear down what America is and look to the things that are imperfect about it. We're all imperfect people, so I just encourage you to show your patriotism for our veterans too, because I know that helps honor their service. So thank you all. And we'll turn it over to Commissioner Applegate.
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank all the veterans in the room and everybody that served. Special thanks. My grandfather, even now that he's gone, and my dad and my brother. Thank you for their service. Basically, what makes your service different than anything anybody else does is you all went out and signed a piece of paper that said, till death. You were willing to put it all on the line to keep us free, to keep us safe, to make sure we could have meetings like this and live in a free society. And that truly is awesome. And I hope that everybody remembers that and honors that over this weekend and over Veterans Day. So.
Okay, with that, I think we're ready for a vote. We'll begin with Commissioner Weissong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Applegate.
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. And we will again take a brief recess for a photograph. I'll call this meeting back to order, and we are on item 8.
Item number 8 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
Okay, and we do have Mr. Schleicher in the room, so we'll let him take the microphone first.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Steve Schleicher, El Paso County Clerk and Recorder. And I just want to take a minute just to share with you what is going on with our election day today here in El Paso County. Just to share with you, we have 12 in-person vote centers that are open throughout El Paso County. And today being election day, our vote centers are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. All 41 secure ballot drop box sites are available, and most of them you will see are bipartisan election judges that are out there assisting to ensure we don't have any traffic jams and things like that. So just to share with you is if anybody wants to sit there and register to vote, or if they need a replacement ballot, have any questions whatsoever, they can go to any of our VSPCs, because in accordance with state law, you could register leading up to 7 p.m. tonight to be able to participate in this election. I will share some of the things that we have seen is we have over 200 voters that did not sign their ballot envelope, which means is we send out a cure letter asking them to come on in because their ballot will not be counted without a signature. If they do not cure their ballot, then in accordance with Colorado law, that is turned over to the district attorney to be investigated. So if you get a cure letter, I highly recommend that you sit there, come onto my office and cure your ballot. But some of the things that we are seeing is folks that are being called on to cure their signature verification. We see a lot of voters that are signing their names, scribbling it on their their steering wheel of their car as they're driving up to a ballot box. So just take the extra couple seconds to make sure your signature matches what you have signed before. But we're extremely excited. In fact, I will share with you is we're probably going to be pushing out preliminary results this evening between 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. and we will be pushing out hourly results thereafter. So it's a great day. I'm hoping for more than a 35% turnout, and I've been asking the citizens to hammer the office and drown us in ballots, so allow everybody's voice to be heard. But a happy election day. Are there any questions?
I don't see any. Thank you so much for the update.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll just double check, make sure we don't have any other countywides. I don't see any in the room, and we have none online, so we'll go to Commissioner Wysong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week, I was not present for the board meeting. I was in California attending ADC, which is the Association of Defense Communities. It was a very interesting and enlightening conference. Leon Panetta, former Congressman, Secretary of Defense, CIA Director, gave the Tuesday afternoon kind of general session talk. And it was a little Kennedy-esque, but one of the things that he said is with the different communities, the community should not be asking what the military is doing for them, for economy, but really what the community should be doing for the military. And that is just one of those really important things. With 5 military bases, we've got a lot on our plate to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to support them. Just a couple of things add to. You may or may not know that we have a DPW dashboard. As you wouldn't know it with the temperatures still in the 70s, but snow is coming. And it's the ability for people out in the county to know where the snow plows are. And as it comes to what we do as we budget and all the rest, that there are 5 core values that the county focuses on. We're very service focused. We're very collaborative. We're accountable, trustworthy, and we are transparent in everything that we do. We had a couple of things come up. code enforcement and DPW in the Midway area, they did a lot of trash cleanup. And DPW, along with the code enforcement, this is a good thing. They picked up 65 tons of garbage in the Midway area. It's great that we got it cleaned up, but it's also really frustrating. And, why do we allow our areas to get so trashed? And at the same time, with the Fountain Creek Nature area, the watershed district, we finished the Creek Week, and we had 90 cleanup crews in 8 communities in cleaning up the creek, 16.5 tons. Something's wrong where we get that much garbage that we as individuals are not taking care of ourselves. And same thing, they continued down in Pueblo, where they picked up 3 tons of illegally disposed, trash dumps. We've got to take more pride in our community, in our open spaces and such. So it was just a little frustrating. And just to close out on Saturday again, to remind everyone, I'll be in the Veterans Day Parade, and just showing our appreciation for our veterans. Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson?
So tomorrow evening is the Colorado State University Extension meeting. Normally it would be this evening on a Tuesday, but because of the election tonight, they've moved it to tomorrow evening. And unfortunately, I won't be able to attend. I have a conflict, but some great work coming out of that group. Next week is Board of Health, and then Opioid Abatement Council, Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. And so next week is going to be a little bit heavier when it comes to the boards and committees that I serve on. And we are currently in the process of reviewing applications for the Joint Appointment Council for the Library Board of Trustees. That window closed to for applicants to let us know a little bit about them and determine who we want to see on that library board. The Joint Appointment Council is made up of 2 commissioners and 2 city council members, and then we bring a recommendation to our different municipalities for who we would like to see placed on the Library Board of Trustees. And so each of those Joint Appointment Council members can, if they wish, meet with the applicants to help learn more about them. And so we'll be working through that process right now. Last week and this week were a little bit lighter as far as workload goes for the various boards and committee meetings. And so it's just been nice to sort of be able to focus on some of the work at hand. And I look forward to hearing from our Board of Health team this morning, or our Department of Health team this morning, and then reviewing our budget for the county as well. Some really good work happening in both those areas. And I just also would like to share that it's been an honor to serve the last 5 months. I know there's an election this evening, and I just want it to be known that I am very grateful for this opportunity to have been able to fill in for this time. So thanks.
Commissioner Applegate?
Thank you. So last Wednesday, I was with Commissioner Williams, and we did a presentation, the mayor's fellow county presentation. And so some people from the city, was it like new businesses, basically new businesses and smaller businesses came down, and we gave them a presentation, kind of gave them a rundown of how El Paso County works, what our different departments we have control over, what our jobs are as commissioners, kind of fielded some questions. And it was it was very eye-opening to them to kind of show them how our responsibilities for the unincorporated areas, for things that are outside of the cities. It was all treats but no tricks. On Friday, I attended the Habitat for Humanity. They're finishing up. They've got four lots left in the build at over the Sand Creek area. So they're really excited. They're doing the Veterans Day build And they've got 2 more houses they're working on as well, and another one they're finishing up. So, and they've got, and they've 5 actually. So they've got to break ground on 1 more. They're all but done over there, and they're going to be moving locations here soon. So their supervisor, Eric, was definitely like, I'm going to miss this place. Seems like I've been working over here for a couple of years now. So, but it's very good. And I continue to, we see the work they do and we go, wow, this is really helpful to the community. And on Sunday, I attended the Adaman, the annual dinner. And congratulations to Matt Summers. He's going to be leading the group up the mountain on New Year's Eve. They'll be shooting off some fireworks, a few at 9, and then the rest right at midnight. So it'll be cool. And they went over some stuff, and they had a mural recently that got painted for them at Pueblo in one of the channels. They're starting to set a record at the Guinness Book of World Records. So they painted a mural for Pikes Peak and for the Adaman Club. It was really cool. It was Pikes Peak, and it had the fireworks going off, and it said to the Adaman Club. And yes, and on Saturday, I will be in attendance of the Veterans Day Parade. So I hope to see everyone there. It's encouraging. I look forward to it.
Vice Chair Williams.
Okay, so last week I did get to speak to the Mayor's Fellowship Program. It was very fun and entertaining to speak with them, and we had some interesting discussions. On Saturday, I had my children in town, and we got to go see my son play his guitar and his bass violin for the Indian Music Festival at Mitchell High School, which would have been really, really awesome had they had subtitles. But as I told my husband, it costs a lot of money just to rent the facility, so asking for subtitles for all of the songs was a bit much. But it was interesting, and a lot of cute kids learning their heritage, being from India, but being American citizens. It was really very good. This week, I'll give 2 weeks of stuff because I realize we're not here next Tuesday because of Veterans Day. We're going to have on Thursday, there is my statewide transportation advisory committee. And then we have the Voices in Focus unveiling at Widener Field, which is the community group that John Southers is part of, as well as the Pikes Peak Community Foundation, to look at survey results as to what they had of what people wanted in our region. And that will be really interesting. There is a UCCS Regent reception Friday. I have a Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments pre-board or board meeting to prepare for our board meeting next week. Saturday, we're doing a ribbon cutting at the Back 9 up off of Voyager Parkway. I don't know what it is, but it'll be fun. And then next week, we will not have commission meeting on Tuesday because it's Veterans Day, but I do have Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments and Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. I will point out to my colleagues who serve on Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments that we are meeting at 8 a.m. and to evaluate our executive director, and then I have to leave at 9 a.m. to attend a very special ceremony, which I'm excited to update y'all about 2 weeks from now. And so we'll have someone else be running the actual PPACG meeting. And then that is it. One of my favorite days of the year, by the way, is last week when we evaluated our county administrator and our county attorney, and I just wanted to thank them. This county truly runs well because of its leadership and also its employees. So thank you very much. And those are my comments for today.
Most of my activities for the next week have been mentioned. I will just say I want to thank my colleagues for all signing on to a letter asking our Colorado senators to vote for the Clean CR to open up our government. We know that many of our citizens are being impacted by the current shutdown. And so I'm just really grateful that we were all willing to come together and just ask for the common sense solution here, pass that Clean CR. Other than that, I will just say it's election day. Exercise your right and responsibility to vote, and looking forward to celebrating what will be a fantastic election night and running smoothly at the clerk's office, I'm sure. So with that, we are ready to move to item 9.
Item number 9 is community service organization reports, and there are none.
Item 10.
Item number 10 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. And Madam Chair, I'm aware of one person signing in ahead of time to speak today.
Okay, if you are here to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, if you'd like to come forward, please do come forward, sir. And if you've already signed in, that's fantastic. You'll just need to state your name. Just state your name for the record when you begin. You'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, council members, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Kevin Boyce, and I live on Woodland Road, which is a small little private road in the far western part of El Paso County, up near Rampart Reservoir. Only 2 ways to get to my neighborhood are to go up Rampart Range through Garden of the Gods, up that winding mountain road, or to go into Woodland Park and use a tiny little mountain road called Lloyd Creek Road. In the wintertime, when they close the lower section of Rampart Range Road, the only way to get to our neighborhood is through Woodland Park and up Lloyd Creek Road. Over the last several years, we have put in multiple requests to have road repairs done to Lloyd Creek. It is a typical tiny, narrow little mountain road, got a rock wall on one side, a drop off on the other. It's narrow, riddled with potholes and infested with logging trucks under contract with Forest Service. A couple of months ago, through retirement, we had an opportunity to meet with Jack Laidley, the Director of Public Works. And initially we thought, well, here we go again. Our little project is going to go back to day one and we've got to start all over again. We were pleasantly surprised when Mr. Laidley not only agreed to come out to our neighborhood and talk with a small group of us, but actually rode around with a few of us, listened to our concerns, and looked at the problems that we were trying to address on Lloyd Creek Road and then a small portion of Rampart Range Road between Lloyd Creek Road and Front Range Road. After the meeting, Mr. Laidley left with only one promise, that he would look and see what he could do, and nothing more than that. Again, we were surprised when, I guess it was about a week later, we started to get emails from him outlining a plan of attack to address some of our problems. And then the first week of October, he sent his crews up there in force. And over the next 10 days did a phenomenal amount of work on Lloyd Creek. Pushed back vegetation, addressed drainage issues, and not only filled potholes, but actually resurfaced certain portions of the road to make it much more comfortable, safer trip up. Still have to deal with the logging trucks, but that, I guess with mitigation in the forest, that is just going to be a way of life for a while. Additionally, let me back up just a second. The purpose of my visit here is just to publicly thank Mr. Laidley, his crews, his staff for the work that they did, to thank Commissioner Wysong in his efforts to help facilitate that meeting and that work. And he was a part of that meeting as well, and we do appreciate you coming out to meet with us. Second point I'd like to bring out, it's my understanding that while you're working through next year's budget, Mr. Laidley has a line item in his budget to continue further repairs to Lloyd Creek Road. In closing, I'd just like to encourage you to consider that and look, hopefully you will fund that line item. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, so much for taking the time to come in today. Okay, anyone else who'd like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, I see no one online and no one else coming forward in the room, so we will move on to item 11.
Item number 11 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up.
Item 12.
Item number 12 is department and committee reports, non-action items. 12A, El Paso County Public Health 2026 preliminary budget. Deanne Ryberg, Interim Director, Department of Public Health, and Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Well, good morning. Thank you for your patience of a long meeting this morning. And we're ready to hear from you whenever you're ready to begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Deanne Ryberg, and I serve as the Interim Executive Director for El Paso County Public Health. I'd like to thank you for a very uplifting morning, hearing about the celebrations for Marine Corps as well as Veterans Day. I myself am a military spouse. Air Force is what brought our family to El Paso County, and I feel very privileged to have been here this morning for that uplifting start to my day. I am here today to talk about our preliminary budget for El Paso County Public Health. Joining me, I have two of our team members here this morning. Our acting acting Deputy Executive Director, Michelle Byerly, as well as our Public Health Budget Manager, Lauren Mearmont. And as we move into our budget presentation, I'd like to ground the conversation in some of the activities and programming that we offer in El Paso County Public Health. Before you, you see our interim organizational structure. And here you'll note that we have a wide breadth of programming and services that we offer at El Paso County Public Health, with more than 25 different service lines and programmatic activities arranged in 4 main divisions across the agency. We have our Community Health Promotion Division. This is our team that focuses on health promotion and education in the community with services like nutrition education, injury and violence prevention, substance use prevention. Moving across the structure, we have our Disease Response Division. This helps us meet our statutory responsibilities to control infectious disease and communicable disease in El Paso County through our communicable disease program, emergency preparedness and response, as well as our public health lab team. We also have our Environmental Health Services Division. This is the regulatory arm of public health that works on keeping our water safe through and preserving water quality through our on-site wastewater treatment system activities, as well as our regulated facilities teams working with retail food, body art, and schools inspections. And then moving over to our Clinical Services Division, this is our nurse-led team that provides direct clinical care to individuals in our community. This includes our immunizations team, as well as our tuberculosis team and other programming in that area. We also have our strategy, data, and communications team that works on our data and analytics, our community health assessment, improvement plans, as well as strategic communications, and our business operations team. So I hope that gives you an idea of the breadth of services that we provide at El Paso County Public Health and the variety of work that your public health team in El Paso County is doing every day.
Commissioner Williams?
I just have one question. Do you still go on your retail food program? Do you inspect every restaurant every year?
We do risk-based inspections, so we do try to inspect every licensed facility annually. Depending on different factors, we may not get to all of them within that same year. One of the challenges that we are working through is there is growth in the mobile food truck sector. So trying to make sure we are capturing those mobile vendors on a routine basis can be a challenge for us. So yes, that is what we strive for, and I continue to work through challenges as the industry changes and evolves.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
And El Paso County Public Health is governed by a 9-member Board of Health. And I thank you, commissioners, for your work in appointing our Board of Health. They are charged with establishing public health policy, approving our budget, and working to appoint our Public Health Executive Director. Our Board of Health members serve up to 2 5-year consecutive terms. So for those board members who have been with us for 2 terms, I think it's a remarkable commitment to volunteer service to the community, volunteering up to 10 years in service to public health in El Paso County. Here you see a list of our current Board of Health members. Grateful for the participation and addition to our board this year of Chair Geithner as well as Commissioner Nelson. And thank you, Commissioner Applegate, for your service to our board as well. And I'm also honored to have here with us today an additional board member, Courtney Salt, who is here with us this morning as well. The work that we do at El Paso County Public Health is framed by the Colorado Public Health Act that required the State Board of Health to establish core public health services that each county and district public health agency must provide or ensure. And then the state regulation requires state and local public health departments to ensure provision across 7 foundational capabilities and 5 foundational services. And this is the structure that informs much of what we do within public health. Those foundational services include our communicable disease prevention, investigation, and control activities, chronic disease injury prevention and behavioral health promotion, environmental health, access and linkage to care, as well as maternal, adolescent, and family health. The core public health capabilities are really the cross-cutting capabilities and expertise needed to support those foundational services and any public health program, and they're defined here and reflect capabilities such as assessment and planning that we see reflected in our responsibilities for community health assessment and community health improvement planning, communications, organizational competencies, and emergency preparedness and response are a few of those. And then moving on to our budget, here you see a snapshot of our budget history going from 2020 to 2026. This period has had marked changes for public health locally, as we've seen a rapid increase in our budget related to the pandemic response. And now as those pandemic funding streams are expiring, a return to more typical funding for the agency. 2020 was really the last year at our pre-pandemic normal budget levels. And then you'll see we moved from a budget of $17.6 million to more than $31 million in 2023. And I'm here today to present our 2026 preliminary balanced budget at $25.6 million. And with all of those changes during recent years, we have also seen a number of changes in our public health staffing. Before you, you see a reflection of our FTEs over this same time period, with pre-pandemic levels at 158 FTE for public health. With the increased public health service activities and expectations and funding during the pandemic response, we increased to an FTE level of 228 in 2022, and we have been reducing to more sustainable staffing size as those funding levels have returned to more typical funding streams. You'll note in 2025, we have changed our staffing throughout this year. We entered into the year with 195 FTE, and over the course of the year, we have really been examining our structure with a focus on sustainability and looking very closely at our vacancies before we go to refill those vacancies, looking for opportunities to realign and restructure our agency for longer term sustainability. And that is that 23 number that you see at the top there. That is progress we've made towards sustainability throughout the year. And we anticipate going into 2026 with 167 FTE. I've been serving as our interim executive director since March, and during this time, our executive team and myself have set priorities for the agency to really examine our long-term sustainability and current priorities to help support the agency moving forward. And here are some of the priorities that I wanted to share with you that we have been working towards. That includes refocusing the agency on our core priorities and statutory requirements. with an emphasis on strengthening excellence in service delivery and efficiency of our public health programming. An example of this is work that we have ongoing within our environmental health team to examine the structure and operations to increase efficiency with the emphasis on service delivery. We have also been looking very closely at our staffing models as we have increased our staffing rapidly and have this return to more typical funding streams. It's been important to us to look at that staffing structure. We've had strategic elimination of vacancies as we've moved throughout the year, and looked for opportunities to realign staff and lower programmatic barriers so we can work more flexibly across different programs within public health. And one of the things that we have done this year as well is to have intentional education for our public health team regarding our budget so that every member of our public health team understands better how our work is funded and what comprises the public health budget, and leading to us including transparent language on all of our job postings that indicates our dependence on variable and grant funding. I am very proud of our team for the work that they have done looking at our operational expenses across public health, including reducing costs and working to improve efficiencies. There are several examples of that I would just like to briefly share with you today. That includes evaluating our vendor solutions for credit card processing to reduce fees related to revenue collection. We're also assessing ongoing business needs so that we can be more efficient with the funding that we do receive. And that's resulted over the last several months of our ability to reduce our monthly internet expenses at our satellite facilities by 50%. We've reduced our monthly cell phone bills by 21%, and we've worked to receive rebates on all of our unused cell phones so that we can bring our operational expenses more into alignment with a sustainable budget. We've also worked closely with our Board of Health to be able to look at strategic use of our fund balance and to consider opportunities for strategic investment in our fleet in public health so that we can further reduce our ongoing operational expenses related to mileage for our environmental health team.
Commissioner Williams.
I just wanted to state I really appreciate these efforts. We in El Paso County, we pride ourselves on efficient and transparent government. And I was reading, I guess there was a Common Sense Institute report in March, but then I was reading the Gazette this morning, and my one complaint about our state government and their budget problems is the fact that they won't reduce staff. And they've added something like in the past 8 years, 12,000 staff members or something. It blew me away, the high number. And it's been very frustrating to me. When you are trying to cut budget, come out of COVID, come out of ARPA funding, which is one-time funding, and you're reluctant to look at eliminating positions. Maybe they were positions that weren't full anyway. And getting rid of some of the fluff in the budget, it really helps so that we know that we're running our Department of Health the El Paso County way. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for that. And one of the additional areas we've been looking at our costs is related to medical billing. We do bill some insurance for our clinical services, as well as collect fees for those clinical services. So we have been working to update our fee schedules within clinical services and also looking at our billing practices. We have a small but mighty one part-time employee who serves as our medical billing specialist, and she and her leadership have taken the initiative to establish a medical billing roundtable for local public health agencies across the state so that we can learn from each other, improve our understanding of eligible medical billing and appropriate coding as one way to also improve our cost recovery efforts for our clinical services team. 2025 has been a year of change for our public health budget. We have seen disruptions to historical funding streams. That includes a decrease in our state per capita contributions of nearly $250,000 in our current budget year. We have also seen changes to our grants. Our grants are typically focused on specific programs. They are restrictive, time limited, and the majority of our grants come from governmental funding sources such as the state and also federal dollars. And they comprise nearly half of our revenues. As we've moved through the year, we've anticipated budget cuts, program grant reductions, and in building our 2026 budget, our program grants are anticipated to be down by $2.3 million compared to our current year. Moving forward, we're also closely monitoring uncertainties regarding the state fiscal year. As we move closer to July of 26, we know that the limitations of the state budget may result in further reductions to public health. All of this points to why the work our team has undertaken in 2025 to really look at sustainability and efficiency of the agency, why that work has been so important to us. Here we have our revenue sources by major category. As I had referenced earlier, we do receive nearly half of our budget in the form of programmatic specific grants. We are able to capture licenses, fees, and permit charges for many of our services, the largest of which being environmental health, and that comprises about 18% of our budget. Our state LPHA funding is one source of flexible funding for our agency. However, that was reduced this year and there remains uncertainty going into next year. And then, of course, the El Paso County contributions at just over $7 million that comprise about 28% of our budget and provide an important source of flexible funding for the agency so that we can fund the infrastructure and support needed to make this work possible. Our total expenditures, consistent with many service delivery agencies, our primary expense category is personnel, with only about 22% of our budget going to operating costs. And here we have for you a breakdown of our budget by division. Administration, of course, is the largest composition of our budget. This is not only funding our personnel, administration, and business operations team, also several of our ongoing costs for the agency that include our CAM and facilities costs, our HR, IT support, and other things that make our work possible. And these are our major divisions within the organization that comprise the work we do, with their division level budgets ranging from 1.2 to just over 6 million. As you move from more support services with a lower composition of our budget to our work that is in community health promotion, funded at just over $6 million to be able to span the scope of services provided by that division.
Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, commissioner for 7 years. I focused on transportation, not the Department of Health. One more question is, are our public health employees on our county benefit system and our county retirement system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, thank you.
And I wanted to share a bit with you this morning about how your support from El Paso County makes our work possible and how those funds support the success of public health. The funds we receive from El Paso County help support our public health infrastructure and provision of services, allowing us to operate efficiently and effectively. This includes funding that supports our administration, leadership, and operations, our rent and common area maintenance at Citizen Service Center, And we benefit tremendously from having access to the services of El Paso County in the form of IT, HR, benefits, finance, and budget. And we do pay for those services and find high value in them. And the flexible funding we receive from the county helps make that possible. We also fund our communications data and analytics team through flexible funding that we receive. Within environmental health, we do try to set our fees to be as close to cost recovery as we can. There are some limitations in that on-site wastewater treatment systems, that is the only programmatic area where we can recover both direct and indirect costs. The other areas of environmental health have limitations either to just direct costs of the services that we can recoup through cost recovery. And then our largest composition within environmental health is our retail food team. And the fees that we collect for retail food are set at the state level through what is called the triennial review, which brings a request to the state legislature for an increase in those fees. That process did not take place during the pandemic years, so those fees were quite outdated, and this year the legislature did approve a phased-in approach to increasing those fees with support from the Colorado Restaurant Association. And this is important to us because it will have tremendous impact on our cost recovery for retail food, moving us from about a 45% cost recovery, which is what we see currently, to in 3 years, we anticipate we will be closer to 75% in cost recovery. Other areas that are supported through flexible funding that we receive from the county include our statutorily required communicable disease services. We do not receive a public health funding stream for that. It is funded through a combination of local support as well as flexible local public health agency dollars from the state. We also are required to convene a child fatality review team. This is an effort where preventable and accidental death of children and youth are reviewed. Those deaths are reviewed to look for preventable causes of death, to inform policy changes, prevention activities to help minimize that impact. We receive minimal funding for that statutory requirement to convene that team. So the flexible funding we receive from the county helps allow that activity to continue. And we are also required to do a community health assessment and present a community health improvement plan. And the flexible funding that we receive makes that work possible as well. And I wanted to share a bit regarding the El Paso County General Fund support that we have received over the years. On this graph, you'll see that funding support from 2020 to our preliminary 2026 budget. In public health, we follow the HR and El Paso County administrative guidance as it relates to compensation and treating our employees as county employees. And we're grateful that the county has increased our funding to make a portion of that increase in personnel costs over time possible, while we also contribute grant funding to make that whole for our agency. And over time, we have seen increases in El Paso County funding. Most notably, public health came before this board in 2018 with a critical needs request that was phased in over several years. And that accounts for increases seen in 2021 and 2022. In 2023, we were included in the county compensation study and had equity increases that occurred during that year. And since then, continue to see increases in alignment with compensation changes. And we thank you for that support. And then I just wanted to take a moment on behalf of the nearly 172 employees and public servants in public health to share my gratitude to the Board of County Commission for your support, your funding and for the leadership of our county commissioners who are on our board as well, and say thank you. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Commissioner Nelson?
Can you remind me when it comes to compensation increases, is it that as the county decides, here's the funding we have available and here's sort of say everyone's going to average 3% increase in compensation, do you follow what we are doing? And so that's why then you've seen the increase from the county's budget to help support that?
Yes, our practice is to follow the HR and county administration guidance as it relates to compensation structure for the county. So yes, we do follow that.
Okay, thanks. I just couldn't remember. And then can you go back to the slide that showed the breakout of where the budget is going? Yeah, that one. Is community health promotion, can you give me some examples of what falls in that bucket? I have some ideas, but I just want to make sure I'm tracking.
Yes, be happy to. So within that bucket, we have our injury prevention program, that encompasses our child fatality review team, our youth suicide prevention efforts, our substance use prevention efforts, and also our women, infants, and children supplemental nutrition program.
Okay, so WIC falls in
Yes,
there. I was
WIC.
wondering if that did fall there. Okay.
Yes.
And then clinical, that is specifically the labs and things that citizens are coming in and receiving care.
Yep. So clinical services includes those direct nurse-led services. So our immunization, tuberculosis programming, our reproductive health clinic, as well as our nurse family partnership program, which pairs a public health nurse with first-time mothers to provide support and education during going from pregnancy to the first 2 years of life of the infant.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for being here this morning. This is really great.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that's difficult to capture in a snapshot, and we kind of talked about this when we were looking at the whole countywide budget as well, is what are restricted, what are being paid for by unrestricted funds. And so I think looking at this and hearing that, I appreciate that question, because we obviously have a lot of things that are grant specific in here. And so it's difficult to see when you're thinking through what are restricted funds and unrestricted funds, where everything is flowing into, and what's really just almost like a contract, versus the ability to move or flex. So difficult to visualize that all in one place, but I appreciate this presentation. I want to say thank you as well, and thank you to Commissioner Williams for doing it early on, for the incredible work that you're doing. This is not easy work. But just to say it frankly, had you not embarked upon this and been thoughtful about this from the beginning of the year, we would be in a much different place in public health today and making harder decisions about the future funding of the agency. So your work has been tremendous, and the work of the entire Board of Health. And thank you to Courtney for being here today. I do think that, again, the graph, seeing where we all knew that federal funding that was supporting the pandemic response was not going to last forever. And seeing those graphs and seeing where that are, I think that's very valuable for us to all keep in mind as we are looking at what is happening and what we are, seeing in our community. So I really appreciate all of the insight there. And just as a kind of point of information here for my colleagues, this is not something that we have typically done, but something that should be done. And so I'm really grateful to Deanne for, in the middle of a budget cycle, which this was not in the plans, deciding and believing that this was an important thing for us to really see, since we are a huge contributor to public health, but we are not the controlling board, the governing board of public health, to understand where those dollars are going as we also make our budget decisions as a board. So though we don't get a vote on this budget, we do get a vote on the amount of money that's going into this budget from the county side. So just wanted to make sure everyone was kind of tracking the how that all works together. Commissioner Wysong.
Could you go forward one slide? Nope. Another one. There we go. In 4 million, and then, we're projected, 7 point almost 2 million. Between 21 and 22, obviously, COVID. COVID is basically behind us. What are you seeing are the major contributors to needing, the increased funds since COVID?
The increased funds are important to the stability of our service and the ability for us to maintain our workforce, and that includes the increased personnel costs, as our budget is largely driven by personnel, wanting to be able to retain and attract a talented public health team, and then the areas of mandates and activities that we have within public health, but may not have a funding stream associated with them, may have limitations in cost recovery available to us, or maybe mandates that don't have any funding associated with them. So it's really a balance of trying to have the ability to maintain the structure, the responsibilities of the agency, and to serve a growing population.
What would your percentage be of increased mandates from the state without getting full compensation for that?
So the mandates that we have, such as communicable disease response, environmental health, child fatality review team, much of that work is volume-based work as the population increases. So although the core work may be somewhat similar to what it's been for a number of years, the increasing volume of work that our team does continues to grow. And in some of those areas, we have had growth in staffing as well. But pairing that with looking at opportunities for efficiency within our teams and working more flexibly within the constraints that we do have.
Great, thank you.
I want to add, since you brought it up, I mean, the reality is that FTEs are the driving factor, the same as they are here at the county, and we talk about this every year during the budget cycle. That FTEs are going to be that driving force of increasing yearly operating budgets, which is why I think that the work that's been done early this year to reduce those number of FTE is critical. But I agree that is something that it's going to drive forward. We do have an increasing population, but also I know we work very hard. Brett works very hard to make sure that we are not adding a lot of FTE for that exact reason, looking for those efficiencies. So even though our population is growing, and I've seen this across agencies who are doing what I think is a pretty good job of controlling the growth of their budgets, whether it's here at the county, regional building takes this approach. There are also technological efficiencies that we can find. Every year, technology is becoming a bigger part of how we do things. So we can learn to find ways to utilize those things and keep that FTE count from growing, even if our population is growing, so that we can control those costs. So I do think that continues to be an important thing for us to consider here at the county. I know we've talked about it at the Board of Health. I think we're going to continue to talk about those things. And then I think further, for the benefit of this board, who does not get to hear all of those conversations, I think we're hearing a lot about trying to focus in on what are we actually doing and what should we be doing. And those are going to be ongoing conversations, I think, for the next at least year of, where we've come out of this huge thing. Public health was largely focused around that for a while. And the question of how do we best support our community? Where do we see outcomes? Or we've talked about a lot of how we are measuring. How do we know that we're having an impact? It's tempting, and we talk about this a lot, to just throw money at things. There's a problem, throw money at it. Talk about how much money we're throwing at it. Talk about outputs, but maybe not outcomes. So I know we're really working on that hard at the Board of Health to really assess what is the impact of any dollars that are being spent in our community? Are they having the desired impact? Is it worth the impact? Is it worth the dollars that are being spent? Are we looking out for taxpayers and ensuring that they're getting value? So I think we're going to continue on the Board of Health to have a lot of conversations over that over the next year for certain, focusing in on what are our strategic and our core functions, right? We've talked about that a lot as well, and making sure that, in my mind, we don't have a bunch of FTEs working on a nice to have when we really can only afford the requirements. So I think Dan's done a great job of that so far, but I really appreciate the questions and know I think everyone at the Board of Health is very aware that there's more work to do and more strategic planning and all of those things that are going to be going on. If that's helpful at all to add context for those that are not on the Board of Health. Other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Okay, on to item 12B.
Item number 12B is the quarterly budget report, quarter 3, 2025. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer. I just first wanted to say thank you to Deanne and her team for coming and presenting that. They're great to work with in putting their budget together, and they work just like every other county department with us, even though they are a separate legal entity. They work really well with our budget team. So. I wanted to put this September 2025 budget report on the same day as our final direction hearing that is next, because I wanted to give an update on where we're at financially, so you can know that going into setting next year's priorities. So I will quickly go through this. General fund unrestricted. As we've been talking about the last several months, the one area we're watching closely is sales and use tax collections. We are pretty flat to last year. We're up about 0.7% from this time, September. Actually, this is August sales tax through August of 2024. That being said, that is still fairly consistent with what we were projecting when we did our budget planning. So at this point, no changes in what we were projecting when we're doing the 26 budget, but there is a variance to when we did the 25 budget. So we have a variance of $3.3 million there. But then we have other areas, as you can see, that are offsetting that. So we're still exceeding our revenue projection in our revenue budget in all areas in the unrestricted general fund by about $3 million. The primary places that I wanted to point out there are the clerk and recorder fees. As we've seen, the activity in the recording office of the clerk and recorder's office has been continually increasing back to levels that we previously saw in 2020, 2021. So this is not a high number. It's just getting back to more maybe normal levels because interest rates aren't as high as they have been the last couple of years, while the Fed was trying to offset the significant inflation that was happening. And then the treasurer fees are slightly higher than budget by $442,000. And then interest on investments, we conservatively budgeted that for 2025, not knowing what was going to happen with interest rates. And so we're seeing higher revenues there. For total, we're at about 101.8% of our revenue budget through September.
I want to ask you a question because it keeps coming up in the media and it's a bit confusing, I think, particularly for the public. But the sales and use tax there that you are showing that variance, clearly it's not as high as the actual budgeted amount. But the question is, what were we budgeting for specifically? And are we seeing a decline in that, or are we just seeing it not meet a projection?
So that is confusing, and even I get a little, I'm like, okay, which number is which number? So let me see if I can explain it as well as I can. When we were doing the 2025 budget in 2024, we were projecting for a 3% increase in sales and use tax. But remember that we're always many months behind because of how we collect our sales and use tax. So by the time we're setting our budget in November of every year, we only have collections through August. So it also includes a projection for the rest of the year and then the next year. So when we were in 2024, we were projecting through the end of 24 from August data, really probably July data when we're doing the projections. And then you project for the rest of the year, and then you have to project the next year. So one thing that happened was in the second half of 24, we didn't hit our projection then. And so even though we were projecting for a 3% increase in 2025, by the time the year actually ended and we got that information in March, we would have had to get a 5.1% increase in sales and use tax to hit our 2025 budget. Does that make sense? So while we are only, our sales and use tax is up over 2024 numbers, like actual compared to actual, we are exceeding our 2024 collections. It's not 5.1% more than actual. It's about 0.8%, so right around 1% over. So that's where you see the variance. It's not that our economy is declining, it's that we're not hitting a projection of a projection that happened from July of 2024 data. Does that help?
That helps me tremendously. So I would maybe summarize it in my own words here as we're not growing quite as quickly as what we may have projected when we were basing our projections off of projections. And so it would be incorrect to say that we have declining revenues.
Absolutely, that would be 100% incorrect. We do not have declining revenues. They're not even flat revenues. We're continuing to grow, just not at the higher projected amount. But while we do our budget, we intentionally know there's fluctuations in our budget that if one thing is doing well, then usually another thing is a little less. So I'll tell you the three things that seem to intertwine for me are sales and use tax collections, clerk and recorder fees, because that really is that recording office that is so dependent on interest rates, and the actual interest revenue. So if sales and use tax is growing well, then usually, I wouldn't say well, growing faster than normal, then usually we'll see a little bit lower interest on investments and vice versa. When we see low interest rates, we see higher clerk and recorder revenues, and just how those things are related. And so that's why in a normal year, you'll see if one is doing not as well, such as compared to budget, such as sales and use tax collections this year, you'll usually see variances in the clerk and recorder fees and interest on investments because they're on the other side.
Thank you.
For the expenditures in the general fund unrestricted, right now we've only spent about 87% of our year-to-date budget. I will, however, give a caveat that in this operating and capital area, there are significant projects in process. As we get to this time at the end of the year, we work with each department and office to look at those projects and start our reappropriation process for 2025 to 2026 budgets. And so at this point, everything's trending where we need it to be, and no concerns on the operating or the expenditures. For road and bridge, highway user taxes are trending significantly higher than the estimates that were used with the State Department of Transportation and CCI when we planned our 25 budget. And so those revenues are strong, and those come into the road and bridge fund and stay in the road and bridge fund. And specific ownership tax is slightly higher. I will say that is one area that we are not anticipating keeping those levels in 2026. And the reason for that is, as you're aware, specific ownership taxes are distributed to local jurisdictions such as the county, school districts, library districts, cities, fire districts, anybody who levies a mill levy based on their proportional share of all of the taxes collected within the county. And so El Paso County's percentage of that is right around 10%. But 2025 taxes payable in 2026 are now have a bifurcated rate where school districts' taxes are going to be able to go up much more than any other local government, such as the county or any cities. So because we have that bifurcated rate, and the county will tax you at a 6.25% rate, whereas the school districts get a 7.05% assessment rate. Their taxes are going to start to take a larger share of the specific ownership taxes. And so the county's budget has considered that going forward into 2026. And then expenditures, the road and bridge crew, they're doing a great job to keep their expenses in line, and then allocating any underspending they have to ongoing projects. Again, once money is in the road and bridge fund, it doesn't come back out for any other purpose. We just have to appropriate it for road and bridge purposes. Human services is trending very close to what we want. We're slightly over in our revenue and slightly under in our expenditures. And a lot of this is timing, and we expect the end of the year to come in within the budget that we're looking for. Capital Improvement Fund had no activity in September. The next payments will be paid in November, and those are the capital or the principal and interest payments on our remaining COPs. Self-insurance for the risk, workers' comp, and unemployment side, we are trending over budget in this area, but we do have available fund balance that we can come and appropriate, and anticipate doing that sometime either late November or early December. Self-insurance for the health trust side, slightly trending over budget in expenditures, but we have the revenue to cover all but $7,000 of it. So again, we will be coming to you to appropriate that revenue into the fund. And then general fund unrestricted, the one place I want to point out for revenues is the public safety sales and use tax budget. And again, here, that's going to be the same trend as all of the other sales and use taxes. And so we're at 97.3% of budget, but again, slightly higher actuals compared to last year, just not hitting that budget target. So far year to date have spent $28.4 million of the public safety sales and use tax and expenditures for public safety. Conservation Trust Fund continues, even though we annually increase this budget, it continues to grow a little bit faster than that. We do conservatively budget this because we don't want to plan to do something that we then can't afford to do. This is used for parks, capital and maintenance. And expenditures just slightly ahead of budget at this point, but not a concern because we do have other funds, like the funds can be moved around in here. Schools Trust Fund had no activity during the month of September, and you won't see activity in that until the beginning of next year. Household Hazardous Waste Fund, primarily funded through tipping fees. Those are running slightly less than expected. And then the other thing I'd like to point out on here is these disposable bag fees. So far, we've collected $39,000 through September 30th on that. And Local Improvement District, which is your Falcon Vista LID, set up as a special assessment district. We pay the available funds to the bondholders as they're available when those principal and interest payments are due. And so this year there was $2,448 paid more because the funds were available. We'll be coming again with that cleanup resolution to appropriate those dollars. And that's all I have for your budget update. Are there any other questions for me?
Does not look like any questions on this one. So I guess we will move to item 12C.
12C is the 2026 budget hearing, original adopted budget, final direction by the Board of County Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Again, Commissioners, Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer. I would love to open budget hearing 3, which is our final direction hearing. And this is my favorite day. It's the day you guys actually let me do math in public. And this is the day that I'm going to request No action from the board, just it's a workup session. It's where the commissioners have the ability to propose any changes that they might have to the budget. It's a day. So how this works is because there is no action today, but what I'm looking for is consensus on what should be in the 2026 budget to make sure that the package that I'm going to bring back to this board on December 9th is a budget package that the board would be in favor of voting for. And so today, I would ask for commissioners to give any suggestions that they have to change from the preliminary balanced budget into the original adopted budget. And if there's a commissioner that has a proposal, you would say, hey, you know what, let's talk about this and want to, add $50,000 to XYZ budget. And then I would say, okay, Commissioner A has asked to add $50,000 to this budget. Do I have two other commissioners that would be in support of that? And that way I know that if I make that change, that I would have enough that would vote for that change. So I would open this up. This is a balanced budget. As you're aware, the requirement for us, we have to have a balanced budget going into every year. Our requirement is that just this year's budget balances, but we always look at a 5-year forecast to make sure that the actions that we're taking today are sustainable for at least through that 5-year period. And so there's some whole bunch of calculations behind these numbers in here with future revenues, things like that. But so what we want to make sure that doesn't happen, say, for example, you to say, and this is a wild example, but you say, I want to add 50 staff members that are going to cost us $5 million for the year. Well, I have to make sure that I can afford that for the next 5 years or we're putting ourselves in a bad situation. So if you propose ongoing changes, we'll make sure that that adds up. So at the bottom of this spreadsheet here, you'll see our proposed ending spendable savings, our available fund balance. This is above and beyond the reserves that we talked about. So holding the county's 23% reserve, the emergency reserve, as well as our Tabor reserve. This is how much money we would have available to spend. However, at the end of this 5-year period, we've already gotten it to be a balanced budget. I'm not concerned about $31,000 in 5 years. Our legal requirement is that this number be above 0. Are there any proposals to change the budget from the commissioners?
I was just going to clarify, OT means one time, OG means ongoing.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any proposals, no.
Commissioner Applegate?
Yeah, so now to touch on what that gentleman that came in and spoke earlier about Rampart Reservoir, that was in DPW's. He said that was already in their budget, correct?
So that $7 million that he was speaking to is on this line. So it was in administration's preliminary balanced budget. They're in that pavement and preservation program. There's $5 million ongoing, and then this $7 million one time to be able to get that funding to the road and bridge. So yes, so if you approved this with no changes, that money would be allocated to road and bridge next year.
Okay, that's all I was wondering. So as long as we don't amend, it's still in there. Cool. Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson?
I don't have any requests for changes. I really appreciate the hard work you all have put into building a sustainable budget. And I think the fact that we were 101.8% away from last year's projected budget is a testament to just, did I say that wrong? Your face.
I'm trying to
In your
follow.
last presentation, it said our revenues that had come in. Yeah, that bottom
Yeah, so
box
we're at
right there.
101% of this year's budget.
Oh, sorry. This
So
year's budget.
we're within 1.8% of what we projected.
Yeah, I just think it shows how well you guys are doing at projecting our revenues, and then the fact that we haven't had to lay people off, as our city partners have, and our state budget is not in a good place. I mean, I just really admire the work that you all have done, county administrator and chief financial officer, with getting the county's budget in a good place. And I am continuing to learn and really dig in and enjoy this work. And I know you and I have had conversations about where are we at with how, in general, if we were wanting to prioritize public safety, does our budget show that? And do our resource allocations show public safety? And then similarly, roads, infrastructure. And so I'm continuing to ask questions and learn more about sort of the priorities, and does our budget reflect that? And so at this time, I don't want to make any requests, but I look forward to further conversation and just, for next year, thinking through, are we putting our money where our mouth is? And so thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Wysong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based on the ending available fund balances that goes down into the, 31,000, how do we potentially keep adding additional funds? So in other words, in 5 years, we're not going to have any extra funds available. But over time, aren't we going to be building up above our reserves? And then that would be adding to this. So it doesn't look like it's doomsday, because this is just showing if everything stayed the same with the current income, that in 5 years would be kind of in the hole by 31,000.
Yeah, and we do, Commissioner, project future increases, but there's a lot of things in this. It's a projection. There's a lot of things that go into this. We're projecting future pay increase packages. We're projecting future revenues. So there's a lot of, I don't want to say hidden columns, because we're not hiding it just right now. That's not what we're discussing, because we're not setting 2027's budget. But we want to make sure that we're not making decisions today to spend everything when it means we wouldn't be able to operate normally in 2027, 28. And so a lot of those have changed. This has been the same process we have used for the past decade that I've been involved with the budget. And that's just kind of always our intent, to make sure that this ending number is around zero, to make sure we're not leaving any money on the table, that, there's a line between saving too much taxpayer funds and not putting the money into services that the taxpayers are paying for. And so we try to get that number down to zero over to ensure that we're putting the money that we should be putting into services for taxpayers. So this being zero is not a bad thing. That's actually what we're aiming for. And then every year as it goes on, we add to fund balance with underspending and unanticipated revenues, or, if unanticipated revenues are negative, then it would take from fund balance a little bit. But that being zero is actually what we're aiming for.
Good. Just sometimes public might construe that as, oh no, we're heading in the wrong direction. It's just based on today's budget, factoring out with no changes other than what you've identified. So
Correct.
Great. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Williams.
And I think the important thing about this budget, and in relation to where we are in future years, is we're not adding any more full-time employees this year. Every time we add a full-time employee, that's going to go year to year. The only ongoing expenses we're really adding are postage, the pay adjustments, and the animal control contract. And the postage is probably going to be something that might happen every year until we can get the Postal Service running better, which may never happen. And so I think the important thing is we're being very conservative in how we're adding on to employee salaries and how we are adding on to any ongoing expenses. And that's why this is a conservative budget this year, because there's so many just one-time needs that honestly aren't very exciting to me. Paving some parking lots is just not that exciting. The pickleball courts will be fun, but there's just some one-time expenses because we know that we could still have a tough year next year, and we're just not certain where this economy is going. And I think that's the important thing about this budget, is we're just being very, very careful and making sure that we're not over-projecting or adding a lot of ongoing expenses that we would then have to cut back in the future, because those kind of cutbacks are very hard to make when you add extra employees. So,
Commissioner Nelson.
I've been pondering whether to ask this or not, but because it's more of just my own curiosity. With Can you repeat the percentages on that bifurcation of the school district and versus the rest of the entities?
Yeah, so local governments, not school districts, have a 6.25% assessment rate, and school districts have a 7.05% assessment rate. So what that means is school districts, or sorry, so what, you take the value of the property, and that's for residential homes, by the way. They take the value of the residence and say it's $500,000. And then we multiply it by 6.25% to get your assessed valuation. And then that's what we put our mill levy on. So when we take our 7.1 mills, we put that on that 6.25% amount. So school districts get to put their mill levy, the same mill levy that they've had, on a 7.05% assessed valuation. So therefore, their taxes are just going to be higher next year than they were this year.
So their revenue will
Yes.
be higher. And that is specific to the mills. So if they have a mill levy override, they'll see an increase in their funding per pupil. So it's not based on, sorry, I'm getting really in the weeds, but I love this stuff. It's not based on their enrollment necessarily, because I was thinking that this could sound like the state is funding schools more, which if it's based on the mills, that would be the case. If it's based on the revenue, or I mean the enrollment, not necessarily, because say our local school district, District 11, their enrollment, our property values within that school district do not cover the total cost of enrollment. And so the state actually comes and backfills. There are a few school districts in the state that are fully sustainable by local dollars. But so I just want to get it clear that it's not, it is truly the mills. Okay.
And
I was
so-
thinking of it that it would be, if it were based on the enrollment revenues, that it would look as though the state was contributing more dollars, but actually they wouldn't be. That it would be making local dollars cover more and the state having to backfill less.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert by any means on how that's working, but what I've understood is that if the state needs to backfill based on a certain amount because the mills don't cover it, then they backfill. So I would assume that this would cause the state to not have to backfill as much because each school district's taxes are going to be higher than they were last year if they have the same mill levy.
Okay, yep, I'm conflating the overrides with just regular mill allocations. Okay, so it is that it looks like state is saying we're going to fund schools more, but that's not actually the case. It's the state is putting more of it on local dollars
This
to
will
fund it.
come more from property taxes
Yeah.
than it's going to come from the state's general fund.
Okay,
Likely because the state doesn't have money.
Right.
They're looking for ways to push off other costs to local governments, as they always do.
right. But if you didn't like really, I mean, it just sounds like, oh, they're getting more money, 7%. But no, it's really pushing it on local. And so that's super interesting. Thanks for humoring me in that conversation.
I do want to say thank you. I want to point out a couple of things that are here. I mean, one of the things is that we charge our county administrator with bringing forward this budget in conjunction with their CFO and working with the team. And over the years, I think there have been less things that have been moved because as the process has improved and come in closer to, understanding where this board is, we have less things to move because what's presented is already taking all of those things into account. So I really appreciate the work that's been done there. But a lot of these items are related to asset management. And so I just want to take a minute to talk about the huge changes that we have seen in how to best manage the county's assets. We've talked about payment preservation. Along those lines, the county has been moving towards finding those efficiencies through making repairs in a timely manner, not letting that deferred maintenance go until, we're at a breaking point and things get more expensive. And so that this is a representation of that. I think, and I'm appreciative to my colleagues for supporting that effort, because it would be very easy to go, can we wait another year on the roof? Can we wait another, and pick a pet project that is more exciting, maybe. And the reality is, though, that these efficiencies will allow us to continue to do more. And it truly is an emphasis on sound fiscal management, not political whims or priorities that sound nice or, make a big splash or whatever that is. So I really appreciate my colleagues being supportive of that. I really appreciate Brett Waters focusing in on that across the county and ensuring that as we move forward, just as we talked about when we talked about Board of Health, that looking out for those efficiencies and continuing to do those things in the county is where we really see dividends way down the road, and making sure that we retain that sustainable budget and the very low tax rates that we have here in El Paso County. I never want to forget that it takes intention. Or we end up with roads that are falling apart and things that are not taken care of. And folks down the road who say, well, gosh, we have to increase taxes because we can't figure out how to pay for the things that have not been kept up over years and years and years. So really grateful to all of the work from everyone, the entire team. And I do not suggest any changes either at this time. So I'll just do one more glance around, other comments, questions, or proposals. Commissioner Williams.
I would just have to test the waters on one thing. At least replacing all of the roofs, we won't have to buy as many buckets when it rains.
She literally tested the waters there.
It's a clever pun there. Okay, final call. So it looks like no proposals for changes. Thank you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the collaborative process, Commissioner. I will echo what you said with this isn't done in a silo in Brett and my office. This is 8 months worth of a lot of collaboration with every director, every elected official, every commissioner throughout the year, and really appreciate it.
Fantastic work. Okay, I believe we are moving to 12D.
Item number 12D is an annexation impact report, Peach Ranch, acknowledgement of an annexation impact report for the Peach Ranch annexation. Pursuant to state statute, the Board of County Commissioners does not approve or deny an annexation impact report. The report provided by the City of Colorado Springs notifies the county of the annexation request and describes potential impacts in very general terms. The property consists of 42.34 acres and is zoned RR5, residential rural. The property is located approximately 1/2 mile from the intersection of Research Parkway and Highway 21. The annexation request was reviewed by the City of Colorado Springs Planning Commission on December 10th, 2024, and recommended to City Council for approval of the annexation and zone change as presented. This request is expected to be heard before the Colorado Springs City Council on November 10th, 2025. Parcel number 52000000046. Commissioner District Number 1, File ANX 24012, Lacey Dean, Associate Planner, Planning and Community Development.
Good morning. I think she covered it, so we're probably good. No, I'm just kidding. That was a really long intro. So I'm Lacey Dean, Planning and Community Development. I worked with Brett Diltz with Department of Public Works. So we received the Peach Ranch annexation impact report from the City of Colorado Springs for the 42.43 acre property. It is greater than 10 acres, so it requires the impact report. And we are filing it so that we make it before the City Council hearing, which is happening November 10th. We received the impact report in September. And as I just stated, we do it 25 days before the hearing, but we had to squeeze it in. So my apologies that we didn't exactly make the 25 days. November 10th, it will be heard by City Council for Colorado Springs. This is basically just the requirements that are needed for annexation. If you need me to pause there, I can, or I can move on. Anybody? We're good? This is the Land Development Code requirements for an impact report. I'll pause there for a moment. just more of the land development code. So the total being annexed is 42.43 acres. There, sorry. Trying to remember why I put that there. My apologies. They're going to rezone it if they are able to get it annexed. They're going to rezone it to residential flex low scale with streamside and airport overlays. It's currently in the county zoning RR5, which is rural residential 5 acres with the airport overlay. They will be developing it into single family residential use at 3.66 dwelling units per acre. And they will use all of these city municipal services, utilities, fire, police, and streets, etc. This is the plat they submitted. And I will show you a zoning map to give you an idea of where this is. So we've got powers here and research, and you can see it's completely surrounded by city zoning. Currently, this will be what's left of county zoning if they were to get it annexed. This is just a vicinity map, give you a better idea of where we are. I-25's over here, and then powers. That's all I have for you.
Commissioner Williams?
This is in my district, and this is one of the enclaves. There's 2 other lots south of the start area. This makes 100% sense. I am certainly glad that they are doing it. And I suspect that many of the services already there are provided by city fire and police anyway. There's only, I think, 3 houses on 3 properties. So this is a fantastic addition, and I'm really excited for the city to take it.
Okay, and just to clarify, they are currently, I think, in the Black Forest Fire District. They will need to ask to get out of that with this annexation.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird place for Black Forest to be coming all the way over there.
Yeah.
So I imagine that it's an enclave. It just makes total sense.
Okay.
Commissioner Applegate?
Well, now I have 2 questions. So first question, you said 42.43 acres. You said they're building approximately 3 2/3 houses per acre. So according to my numbers, basically about 155 lots is what they're looking at.
They did not
If they
specify.
rezone. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But if they rezone, that's what you're thinking is it's going to be about 1/4 of an acre, basically 1/4 acre lots that they're going to look at doing building on.
Yes.
Okay. And then second question, so to bring that up, you said they're getting out of the Black Forest Fire District. More likely than not, what fire district would they join?
The
What's
Colorado
close?
Springs.
Colorado Springs. Okay.
Yes.
And is there a station close to that location? I'm just trying to think in my mind like where it's at.
I apologize. I'm not sure. I did not look into that.
Yeah, there's a couple stations close in the vicinity. There's one right across Powers to the west of that area. So there's a couple of stations right in the vicinity.
Thank you for that.
Closer than Black Forest Fire Station would be the answer, I think. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Weissong?
Can you go back to the map? Is that whole area, there you go. You've got the box with the star in it. Is that just the area or the whole open space?
Yes, just the area that starred is what is being annexed and with this request. The remaining piece, I imagine in the future, they will petition to annex that as well. But for now, it's just going to be the area that you see starred.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, the only question I have, are there any remaining concerns about anything that would impact county infrastructure related to this that have been discussed by staff that have not been addressed?
Regarding like roadways and what have you?
Yes.
I'll let Brett speak on that.
Brett Diltz, Department of Public Works Engineering. We do not have any county facilities, roadways, drainage in this area currently. Everything in that area is maintained by the city.
Great. So no impacts that we're aware
No.
of. Great. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much. Okay. one last call for any questions or comments from commissioners. Seeing none, thank you very much. We will move to item 13.
Item number 13 is the addendum, and there are no addendums today.
Item 14.
Item 14 is the executive session, and there is no request for executive session.
Okay, with that, we've come to the end of this agenda. This meeting is adjourned.